What up? What up, guys? Bobo here. Thank y'all for joining me for another episode of BrassReel tonight. And today we are talking about episode 2 of the She-Hulk series, Attorney at Law. And but I got, Andrew does most of the stuff with me now, joining me up. Andrew, my partner in crime with the business. But I got an old friend joining me right here that I've kind of rekindled things with. And he is actually more knowledgeable on the comic book side of things than me. So we're going to try to start doing more stuff about MCU and DCEU type stuff, or just anything comic book fantasy related, and other stuff as well. But like, I know some stuff, but this guy really knows his stuff. So joining me right now, guys, is Anshul. This is an old school friend of mine. What up, Anshul?
What up, Bobo? Man, I love that intro. That intro is so... For those of you who wonder, is Bobby like his YouTube personality in real life? Absolutely. I've known Bobby for a while, and that intro, that's just so Bobby. It's so Bobo, man.
Well, thank you, dude. I appreciate it. Yeah, I just thought, YouTube is all about being yourself. So I was like, let me just show what it's about, or what I'm about, and for the record, I do go out there with the, dressed like Crocodile Dundee sometimes and just try to have some fun and
Fires
Karate Kid.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards.
What's funny is I filmed those not far from my house, and I made it look like it was like somewhere out on a lake somewhere, and it's not. There's apartment complexes all around that. It's right down Riverside, which runs right next to. I mean, it's right in the city, but it's this one little area by the Trinity. And dude, the amount of people that were looking at me when I was like doing these kicks and stuff, filming myself, they were like, "What is this guy doing?" Go ahead.
Some old lady's like, "Honey, the weird boy from downstairs is practicing his karate by the lake again.
Get your gun." I was worried that people might, think like I don't know. I wasn't really worried about anything. I couldn't help but think of like Napoleon Dynamite or something with Uncle Rico.
Yeah.
Remember he was filming himself out in the field, throwing that football, making his own home videos. And that's what it felt like out there. But anyways, not to get off of that intro, but thank you.
No problem. Yeah. As I get older, I relate to Uncle Rico more and more, sadly.
Oh, dude. Uncle Rico is so awesome. I love Napoleon. I love Nacho, and I love Gentlemen Broncos, which is the movie that Jared Hess made after those two. I don't know if you ever saw it.
I have not. I'll have to check them out, though.
Totally recommend Gentlemen Broncos. It's just as funny as if you like the Napoleon and Nacho humor, you'll love that.
All right.
But hey, as always, I get distracted when I'm starting to talk, but I always just, kind of want to say what's up and how things are going. And hey, have you gotten your full-on channel working to the point to where you're trying to plug it yet? Or because if so, feel free to.
Yeah, it's still in the early phases, but we're definitely up and running. Who's the Master podcast? We talk movies just like Bobo here on this channel. We try to bring a fresh perspective, just like Bobo does, movie reviews on YouTube. Sadly, have become political just like everything else. And I noticed there's just, you've got your critics that come from a very artistic point of view, and you've got some movie reviewers who come from a more divisive point of view. I want to create a movie channel where people can just go, regular people, comic book fans, people of all types, can go and just get movie reviews that they trust from people who don't have hidden agendas. And I know that's kind of what you're aiming for as well. And so that's what we're trying to create. We're trying to create this YouTube community where movie fans can go get honest reviews and feedback from people that they trust that aren't tinged by any sort of ulterior motives. And I think that's what we're both looking to do. So I'm excited to jump on this pod with you and make the first steps towards establishing that.
Awesome, man. Well, yeah, thanks for joining me. And like I said, I have plans to do a lot of these together with you. And not that I'm canceling anything out with Andrew. He just wasn't able to do a lot of stuff this week. And I think for some of this stuff that I can watch day one and he can't watch sometimes until a week later or something, it just makes sense for us that are a little deeper into the nerdism, just a little deeper into the nerdism than he is. And I really, and I say this as a compliment, you're further into it than I am, but you always were. I was one of those guys that was like, I don't want to read that. And I would just, I was bad about first glance, not giving it a shot. And you are not that way. You actually give things a shot. You find diamonds in the rough before they become popular. Like, for example, I knew what Kick-Ass was, but I didn't read it until the movie came out. I know that you read it way before the movie came out.
Yeah, I can't say I'm at the forefront. Obviously, there are nerds that are really at the forefront, but I definitely keep my ear to the ground. And so when I start hearing buzz on the series, I'll definitely pick it up. With that being said, I'm not one of those diehard angry nerd types. I don't mind if you deviate from the source material when you do a show or when you do a movie, as long as you keep me entertained, right? I don't get angry about differences between comic books and movies. As long as you stick to the basic principle of what the comic is about, what the character is about, I'm going to be fine if you make changes to keep me entertained.
Yeah, right? I agree. As long as you make it to the point to where it's like, I see why you did it and I see what you were doing with it. And let's face it, man, some things just don't translate straight from page to screen well.
Yeah,
so you
absolutely.
have to sort of manipulate it and switch it up a little. And look, that's kind of what they've done a little bit with this She-Hulk show. I mean, look, when I first knew that they were making this, I didn't know what to expect. I did remember us, and especially you brought this up, like the John Byrne kind of bringing this comedic attorney at law element to a comic book rather than it being necessarily a superhero comic book. And if you now in hindsight, after watching 2 episodes, it makes so much sense looking at this poster right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this really follows the Dan Slott run more than the John Byrne run. Because the John Byrne run, now John Byrne established a lot of tenets that Dan Slott would use. You know, the fact that Jen Walters is almost more comfortable being She-Hulk than she is being her alter ego, that she practices law as a She-Hulk. All that stuff was established in the John Byrne issue. But that was still very much 80s, so it very much centered around superheroics rather than her life as a lawyer. Dan Slott, kind of his run is kind of She-Hulk as a lawyer, living her regular life and occasionally being pulled in the world of superheroes, or often
made it more about the woman rather than about the She-Hulk.
Yeah, and very much followed that style of Ally McBeal, right? Ally McBeal was a popular show, and I think that's kind of what he was going for. So,
well, and that's what this has been compared to.
Yeah, exactly.
The show has been compared to Ally McBeal,
and that's what Marvel does, right? They're like, okay, let's take something popular and let's make that we mold that into a superhero property.
And I tell you what, I think that it makes sense that Marvel tries to do, because there's some people that are like, dude, why is Marvel messing around trying to make a lawyer show? But to me, if they would have just made a superhero formula type movie or every show, we would already be done with the MCU.
Yeah, it'd be over. Yeah.
Like the fact that it is so diverse and so it has all these branches going in these different directions that do still exist in the same format. But let's think about it. You go to my house, it's going to feel way different than going to Jason Carpenter's house.
Yeah.
You know, Jason Carpenter's a minimalist with nothing on the wall. It's slightly depressing and it's almost prison-like. You come to my house and you feel like you're at a theme park, you know? So people's lives are different. And I like that Marvel has decided to, you know, cover that aspect of it. Jennifer Walters is not the same person as Bruce Banner. So I like that.
Yeah, I think what the angry comic book fans don't get is like, listen, if Marvel just made a movies for comic book fans, they'd be losing their mind. They'd be losing their ass, right? They'd be losing money left and right. We're not the huge part of the movie-going public. So you got to make these movies for the general public as well. Right?
For the masses, yeah.
Yeah. And that's what Marvel's got the formula. I think I've told you this. Marvel knows what people want when they come to these movies. They're usually older adults who have gone out of comic books years ago. So they still remember comic books as being the place where good triumphs over evil. Now they have kids, they have families, and they want to take their families to a movie-going experience that they're going to have fun at, right? And that's what Marvel goes for. They aim for being fun for the whole family.
They do. And I like the fun for the whole family. And they also, they definitely have pretty much, with an exception of a few films, painted a lighter just tone in general in these movies. While there are some that are more serious than others, none of them ever reach the level of Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises or something like that darkness, or the Batman. They don't go that far. Even Doctor Strange as part 2, even as Sam Raimi and Evil Dead-y as it was still very comic booky. You know what I mean? So I feel like that they're also, because of all that, slightly losing their way and forgetting about the mass audience a little bit. But the mass audience are all becoming like, it's cool to wear She-Hulk t-shirts and read She-Hulk. And if you get caught with your tablet in high school reading She-Hulk on your tablet by your other friends, you don't get made fun of anymore. It's like, oh, I'm reading that too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's not like this underground thing anymore. It's huge.
I love that, right? I don't understand the people that get possessive over fandom. because it's great to be able to talk and have these discussions with a large group of people and all be able to kind of be passionate about the same thing and have fun talking about it. So I think that's only a good thing. I think the fact that the Marvel Universe has expanded the fan base, and who cares if they're not all diehards that know every back issue of every comic book and every iteration. As long as they have a love for the character, you can have fun talking about it.
Of course, dude. And that's the thing. It's like, it's sort of like a religious type community. It's like, you want to be welcoming. You don't want to shoo people away.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're not good enough to like this. No, I want everybody to like it too. My complaint about Marvel is just that I feel like right now it's just sort of like restaurants like the Outback. They got really popular really fast and they opened up too many restaurants, and it's like, oh, then they had to scale back and close a few. I think Marvel needs to scale back with the amount of things they're doing just a little. Just make it a little scaled back. But let me put some of these comments up real quick. I got Rich and Famous, who, what's up, man? Thank you for joining. He joins the channel a lot and joins the streams. He says the concept is relatable. We've all dated a She-Hulk.
Ain't that the truth, man?
Yes, that is very true.
A woman who transforms whenever she gets angry, for sure. Man.
Yeah, I've and it's sort of, and at that point, sort of like when he was talking to her in the restaurant, and he's like, "Can you revert back to your the Jennifer form? This is serious." I've been with a woman where she's gotten angry, and I've been like, "Oh, okay, can you just chill out a little, and let's try to go back. Let's take a step back here."
Yeah,
that is funny, Rich and Famous.
Yeah, please don't key my car, She-Hulk. Yeah, we've all been in that. You know.
And in this case, just please don't smash my car.
Yeah, exactly right.
So, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think they did a good job of balancing. So in the first episode, they definitely made some statements about mansplaining and about, you know, how difficult it is to be a woman and deal with angry situations all the time. I thought in this episode they did a good job of balancing that, because Jennifer Walters definitely does something that we can all relate to, where a woman starts talking over a man and doesn't give him, you know, the chance to interject. I thought that was nice. A little bit. Yeah, that's a nice bit of balancing as far as the humor of the sexes is concerned, which I enjoyed.
Sure. I enjoyed that too. And that actually kind of, this show I heard was going to be sort of a cameo filled show, not necessarily even just with characters, but with like uber setups. So like, obviously when she's over talking to him on the phone, and Bruce just can't get a word in edgewise, and then she finds out that he's happy for her and he's okay with it. We'll get to that in a second on why he's okay with it. But then we see him outside of this ship, which is the ship. I couldn't find a picture of it that we just saw in this episode, but this is the picture of that ship in the first episode, which makes no crash. So I have to ask you, what is the ship? I mean, I'm not sure exactly what that specific ship is. Do you know?
So they call it a courier from Scar. I think I'm saying the name of the planet right. I just kind of blanked on it, but I think it's Scar. Anyway, that would be the planet where World War Hulk takes place in the comic books.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Planet Hulk takes place.
Planet Hulk
leads to World War Hulk.
Leads into World War Hulk.
So that's a cool little Easter egg, and we have seen that planet already in the MCU in Thor Ragnarok. You know, and Hulk was a champion there, much like in the comic books. So I don't know what they're setting it up for. It could be,
but again, the way they did it in Thor Ragnarok was a little bit of a revisionist approach to it. It wasn't like exactly where he was and why he was doing what he was doing in Thor Ragnarok wasn't exactly how it was in Planet Hulk.
Yeah, in Planet Hulk, he gets exiled by the Illuminati.
Right. It's way more serious.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And he's angry when he lands, and he ends up finding a life, finding a woman who accepts him for who he truly is, and finding happiness. And of course, the typical Hulk faction, it all literally blows up in his face thanks to a nuke. He blames the Illuminati, finds his way back to Earth, and that's when World War Hulk takes place. And they obviously didn't do that storyline in the MCU. I think they wanted to. Unfortunately, I think Universal's getting in the way of Hulk rights for a movie, so they have to find a way around it.
That's why which is funny to me that we're able to do a She-Hulk show, but they can't do a movie. So, I mean, I guess show and movie aren't the same thing. So,
yeah, the rights are different. Do you, I think, did we talk about this last time? Well, we didn't talk about this with the public, but the rights for She-Hulk were completely created by Marvel because they heard, now this is back in the 70s, there used to be Incredible Hulk show that Bobo and I grew up on, right?
I own it all.
Yeah, featuring Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno as the Hulk. And that show was so popular that the network was talking about doing a She-Hulk show. Marvel got wind of that rumor, and they're like, well, we can't let them do that because we would lose the rights for that character. So that's why they created the She-Hulk characters. So the rights have always been different. It's not been tied to one another. So maybe Universal just doesn't have the same rights to She-Hulk that they do with Hulk.
Right. Yeah. Because I thought it was like Sony owns the Marvel. They own Spider-Man and all of its characters.
Right.
So that just I didn't know if Universal was the same thing, being that she doesn't exist without the Hulk. So it is technically a part of it. But again, it's not. It never has been. So did you like this episode?
So I'm struggling with the series, and I think I've come to the conclusion that this is a series that needs to be binged. Okay, and what I mean by that, for episode was kind of meh.
Super short.
Yeah, super short. This episode, I found myself at first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said this episode was kind of meh.
First episode was kind of meh for me, right? Yeah.
Gotcha.
This episode, I get into it, and obviously I had low expectations because of the first episode. And I found myself slowly getting warmed up. The jokes start hitting a little bit more. I thought the character of her new boss, what's his name? Let me check real quick. Holloway.
Holloway, yeah.
Yeah, Holloway. I thought he was kind of funny. I thought the whole situation was kind of humorous between her and Emil Blonsky. Tim Roth did a great job. And I'm just now starting to get in the rhythm of the show, and then all of a sudden, boom, it ends.
Dude, this one I was like, I really feel like it just started.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just that's when I realized this is a show that needs to be big.
Yeah, and I was thinking that too, because it's like if you're going to do 30-minute episodes of something, it needs to be something like along the lines It's Always Sunny, to where it's just jokes left and right. It's to where you have to almost rewind it because so much is happening. But this one, it had the pace of a movie. As far as let's get some more of this character development out of the way. So episode 1 and 2, it's still just all character development.
Yep.
And so you're right. I think binging this whole thing is going to be a little bit more enjoyable, because I can't imagine that they're not going to have something cool happen by the end of it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. How many episodes we got of this?
I think it's like a 7 or 8 one, but I could look that up real quick unless you're looking it up.
Yeah, I can. I got the IMDb pulled up right here. So, because typically Marvel's 4 or 5 episodes, So let's see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that their sweet spot has been kind of like 6 on average.
Oh, 9.
9. Okay, so WandaVision was 9.
Yep.
But for the other one, I think Loki was more than just 6.
And WandaVision, they cut an episode because of the pandemic. So I guess they were originally going for 10.
Man, I loved WandaVision.
I did too, but I was disappointed by the ending. And obviously that wasn't their fault, right? COVID happened. And so there was a lot of things they wanted to do, especially visually, that they didn't get a chance
to make it a little bit more bombastic.
Yeah.
So going back to Blonsky real quick, what did you think about the twist on that?
I loved it, man. I loved it. That's another Marvel twist that works, right?
Yes, I love it when they retcon something that way, but it doesn't seem stupid. It's like, oh, well, yeah, you're right. He did just get forced into doing this.
Do you know how much needless story they were able to cut just by putting that twist in there that he's reformed? Sure. It's real. It's it's got that sense of realism, because a lot of people, when they go for prison, find religion or find something and find a way, at least a reason to want to repent. Prison can change people, right?
So and just sense. When he was just like, I thought I was going to be bloody Captain America. And it's like, oh man, Captain Britain.
And that does work if you watch the movie. He's the super serious soldier that takes his job seriously.
Right. And he's a hothead, but it also takes hotheads. It's like Jackie Earle in RoboCop. Mm-hmm. Jackie Earle wasn't a bad guy. I'm talking about the RoboCop remake. He wasn't it's Jackie Earle Haley. Sorry. Isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't watch the remake, honestly. I couldn't watch the remake.
Dude, I love that movie.
Really?
I think they did there's been talk of a part 2 that's been in the making for a while that they just, I don't know if it's going or not, but dude, I highly recommend the remake.
Really?
Of RoboCop. I thought it was great, personally.
Well, the original is such a classic, man.
It is.
I live in Dallas, downtown Dallas, so I live right next to all the backdrops for those scenes. Sure, I walk by them all the time, and I remember that movie very fondly because of that. And I mean, just the classic lines you get from the first RoboCop. I'll buy that for $1. Bitches leave, all that stuff.
Yeah, I'd buy it for $1. Did you already say that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's all of it's great. Anyways, but I was just talking about like soldiers, Jackie Earle Haley's character in that. He's a a guy that just works for the government that's supposed to program machines, but he's a hothead, but that's also why he is where he is, you know? And so like for Tim Roth's character as Blonsky, like what guy that's trying to work his way up as a soldier and believes he can make a difference wouldn't want to do this? You know, Captain America did it, but Captain America was just a little bit more of a God-fearing man that was a good old boy that had a different personality. But that doesn't necessarily, just because we had more of a Tom Berenger-ish type guy, you know, from Platoon and Blonsky, doesn't mean that he was a bad guy. He just got, and he's like, hey, they pumped me full of all this drugs. I wasn't thinking straight.
Yeah.
All right. And the fact that Bruce is like, hey, look, he wrote me a nice letter with a haiku, you know, and it was really heartfelt. I kind of buy it, but I also maybe don't buy it.
Well, Bruce has definitely changed since that movie, right? Not just the actor, but the way they portray that whole character since that.
Well, and he even says it. He says, I'm literally a different person than I was then.
Yeah, that's a good catch. I didn't catch that at first. At first, I was think he was talking about his transformation, but you're right, literally a different person.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
little poke.
Yeah, poor Edward Norton.
Yeah, man, it is funny how they just. But I think that that's a whole other podcast we'll get on and talk about that one day.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah,
do you think that, like, because you remember Blonsky was at the end as Abomination, or not at the end, he was in Shang-Chi, but then he's like, I think at the end of, isn't he in the bubble at the end of Shang-Chi? They show him, or he gets, I can't remember how they did that, or he's like Doctor Strange and Wong have like one of the magic holes open, and they show like Abomination in the ring first. I can't remember I feel like that happened in the post-credit scene or something, but
I know. So I remember Wong showing up at the post-credit scene to get Shang-Chi, but I don't think Blonsky was in there. I don't remember. Maybe he was. As
Abomination, I mean.
Yeah.
But he was in Shang-Chi.
He was definitely in that fight scene, right?
And they bring that up in this episode.
Which he looked more like the Abomination than he did in the Hulk movie, which is a nice touch. And I think from the previews, we're going to get to see that transformation once more in this series.
You think they're going to explain the Lagoon, the creature from the Black Lagoon ears, and why he didn't have him in the first one?
I don't know. They might just chalk it up to, once again, a little bit of humor.
Yeah. Which, at this point, it's like sometimes that works for me, but I don't want that to be their go-to.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, how else are you going to explain it, though? You know?
Right. And it's what the fans want. And again, this is what he looked like in the comics. But I didn't mind the way he looked in The Incredible Hulk. The Incredible Hulk, you know, the CG wasn't where it needed to be fully, but it still, I think, is good enough to where it's enjoyable. And I like the design of the Abomination.
I didn't like it. It's so generic. I mean, that's how Doomsday looked in Justice League. That's how the Ninja Turtles
you're right.
Looked, you know? And this is much more like, you look at that right there. That has much more defined characteristics. And
it has more of the reptilian vibe going on.
And listen, I like the Abomination is not one of my favorite characters. He does look a little bit ridiculous when you think about it. He looks like a merman on steroids, you know, from the He-Man show, like, and green.
Oh yeah. What's that guy's name?
Merman.
Oh yeah, and he's
yeah. But I think it's something that's a little bit different than your standard CGI baddie that we get in superhero movies, a la, you know, Batman, Superman. Which was horrible.
They could have just made that movie without the Doomsday plotline, and it would have been fine. I think it would have been better received, actually.
Yeah, I think once again that's the difference between Marvel and DC. DC, whoever's running that studio wants to rush to put everything in because they just see dollar signs. Marvel, there was a plan put in place and it's worked. And I think we're going to talk about Phase 4 being a little bit of a disappointment here in a little bit. But I mean, for 20 years it worked. It's just, hey, let's take our time. Let's sow some seeds. Let's make everything a little bit different and again, separate but connected.
And I think it's inevitable for every company to have that moment to where they have a bad stint at the office. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the fact that it went 20 plus years before that happened is a testament to Kevin Feige, right?
Sure.
And his vision, you know, because
he was able to put Marvel on the line because I don't know if you knew this, but with Iron Man 1, that movie was made with a bunch of loans. Marvel, for real. And they were like, if this movie doesn't do well, then Marvel Studios is over. But it did. I mean, as it was at that point, I'm sure somebody would have resurrected it at some point because there's too many properties. But what I'm saying is, but as far as Marvel, the comic book company, being in control of their own studios, that was it. That was their big one. Like, if this doesn't work, we're screwed. And luckily for them, it did work, and then Disney bought it, and then it's history. But
yeah, and listen, Marvel had been in financial problems for a while as a company, right? They had filed bankruptcy. They'd gone through several ownerships. I think, did you and I discuss the first crack at the MCU done through the Incredible Hulk films?
As far as during the Incredible
you had Bill Bixby Incredible Hulk films where they introduced Thor, they introduced Daredevil.
Oh yeah. I've got all those.
Yeah. I think New Cinema was the name of the company that bought Marvel at the time, that was going to basically make an MCU through Hulk movies, and then they ended up filing bankruptcy and had to sell Marvel. And so
yeah, they made three. There was a trilogy. It was the Trial of the Incredible Hulk, the
there was one before
Return of the Incredible Hulk, and the Death of the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. The Return first, then the Trial, then the Death. But the Death was originally going to be, to bring this full circle, a different movie, and that movie was going to introduce the She-Hulk.
And that was just Marvel trying to do their thing.
Yeah.
Keep the rights of the Hulk.
Yeah.
Well, I did like that the first episode of She-Hulk, the lab that he had, was very remnant of the lab in the first episode of the Bill Bixby show.
Yes.
That they're doing the tests in, like it had all the rock, under the rock type deal. I mean, to me, I noticed that, like, oh, immediately. And then when she takes the door off, that's how the Hulk takes the door off when she's experimenting him on in there. So it was, to me, I loved all that about the first episode. And this second one had some Easter eggs in it as well. But they were very, I mean, obviously the ship, that was a in your face Easter egg. But did you see all the subtle ones that were like thrown at you all at once?
Maybe. Name some of them.
So it's right here.
Okay.
So if you look at, there's the Find Ant-Man. I don't know what that's about at the top there.
Yeah.
But the big ones are, there's an Avengers deal right there. There's a Norse mythology, because remember, Asgard is on planet Earth now. But then look at the right over here. You got Iron Man 3s. They're these shoes, which look like Jordans or something.
Right.
But look below it. Man fights with metal claws and bar brawl.
Nice. So X-Men Easter egg. They're really throwing those X-Men Easter eggs in there.
They're revving it up, man. Yeah. They did the mutant thing with Kamala Khan, and I said Kamala Khan and Miss Marvel. They did the whole Doctor Strange thing and everything with, Professor X, and now this. And then look below that. Why there's a giant statue of a man sticking out of the ocean. That's Eternals. So that's pretty cool. I think they acknowledge a bunch of things right there to let you know, hey, for all you guys that maybe have the questions, like, no, we're thinking about it and it's there. We're just not specifically bringing it up in conversation in this show with the characters because it's not what's on their minds.
And that's probably a good thing, because I think if one thing Phase 4 is showing us, it's that Marvel needs the big guns now, right? They were able to make a studio using their minor characters, which is amazing. I mean, there's no way prior to Iron Man, if you told me that Marvel was only going to have a stable of C-list characters and build a movie empire, I would have said you're crazy. There's no way it's going to happen.
I was nervous when it was all happening because I still didn't believe an Avengers movie was going to happen until I actually saw the trailer.
Yeah. I thought that movie was going to be hot garbage. I mean, how many times have we seen a movie maker try to, and it's funny because now Joss Whedon is such a pariah, but try to take too much and stick it into something and it just fall flat on its face. And I was like, there's no way you're going to be able to put all those characters into one movie and have it work. And it did, right? Marvel Studios constantly proved me wrong. It's not
10 years straight.
Yeah. And that was the best I ever felt being proven wrong, right? Because we grown up in an era, you and I, where like we saw Dolph Lundgren play the Punisher, and we saw
I own it.
Roger Corman. Don't tell me you own that one. The Fantastic Four, Roger Corman.
I do, yeah, dude. Where he waves with his arm at the very end out of the limo. That's
impressive.
I bought it at a Comic-Con just so I could have it.
Yeah, I don't think you can find it. That's why.
Yeah, it's totally a bootleg copy.
Oh, okay. I was about to say that might be worth some money. Because but he didn't even release that officially, did he?
That's what I'm saying. You can only buy them at Comic-Con. I bet you can buy it now on Amazon because somebody's selling it on their personal stash or something. But yeah, it was something that it was never even released.
Yeah.
Dr. Doom and that dude, he looks like he's got a Party City costume on.
Man, Dr. Doom's never just. Well, hey, Dr. Doom is going to be part of the MCU soon.
Yeah, he apparently, from what I understand, he's going to be a part of Wakanda Forever.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're getting off topic of She-Hulk a little bit, but that's okay because we're talking about the MCU. So that's the whole point. And that's why I think this show is really setting up a lot of. I think we're going to definitely get plenty of. They've already said Matt Murdock's going to be in this show.
Yes,
but I think we're going to get like maybe a decent amount of him. I'm just curious as to who else is going to show up, and I'm also curious as to when and what part, and why and how it's going to get super serious.
Okay, I'm gonna set the over under on 2 cameos that I think might happen. I want you to tell me the over under. 1, Lou Ferrigno.
Honestly, he was the voice of Hulk in the Avengers.
Yep.
And I think he may have done Avengers Age of Ultron, but that was it. And again, only
he made a cameo as a security guard. Was it in one of the Hulk movies?
In Hulk.
Yeah.
No, but I'm talking about like in the MCU. You know, since Feige and Disney and all that are doing it. Yeah, he did. I don't think that or maybe he was. Yeah, he was in Avengers, and I think Avengers Ultron, and I think that was it. Maybe not even Ultron, but I'm gonna say. I'm just going to say 70-30.
Okay.
30%. Yes.
Okay. So those are the odds you're placing. Okay. What about, this is going to be one that you're probably going to place low odds on. Bridget Nielsen, because, Bridget Nielsen was originally slated to be She-Hulk. There's even test photos of her dressed as She-Hulk.
Yeah.
Will she make a cameo?
That one, I'm going to go 100% no.
You don't think at all?
I don't think at all. Now, maybe I should give it like a 95% and 5% yes, just because they are having a sense of humor with this and they are breaking the fourth wall with this show. Yep. So there could be a chance that they just decide that after Thor Love and Thunder, who knows what they're going to do.
Well, judging on previews, they're definitely going to make her She-Hulk become this pop icon. We've seen the streams where people are saying that she's hot, etc. So I wonder if they'll at least do a cameo of Bridget Nielsen's look with like a cosplayer.
Yeah, or maybe look, they could. Maybe they'll do something where she's at some sort of like high-end country club or something, and Bridget Nielsen is herself as Bridget Nielsen.
Yeah,
and there's just like a sort of a ha ha ha.
Yeah.
They could. I mean, they did Lou Ferrigno in that Hulk movie where he was himself, which, by the way, he looks almost the same, except he's got wrinkles on his face. But he actually stayed working out and stayed in shape.
Oh, yeah.
He never stopped. Like Arnold sort of slowed down, but so, yeah, I'll give it a 95-5. 5% yes, 95% no that Bridget Nielsen shows up. Okay. What other Marvel characters, though, do you think seriously are going to show up? Because obviously Daredevil's going to show up. It makes sense. It'd be stupid of them for not to do it because he's an attorney. He's a lawyer. So does that mean that there's Foggy? Does Foggy show up?
No, I don't think Foggy shows up. I think just Matt Murdock is going to show up.
Is there going to be a Foggy at all in the MCU?
Well, they're going to do Daredevil, right? They're going to they're picking back up
Daredevil Reborn. I think it's going to be a Disney Plus show.
Now, I'll be interested to see what tone it takes, because while I loved all the seasons of Daredevil, after that, I loved the first season of Jessica Jones, and then pretty much I wasn't really fond of most of the Netflix shows. I was hot and cold with Luke Cage, and
they're fun to put on if you just have them on in the background to feel that Marvel feel. But they're like Daredevil actually got you wrapped in and reeled into what was going on. You really liked it, but the other ones I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think this wasn't a Netflix show, but it was done by Jeff Loeb. Hellstrom is I really saw the cracks of that same formula they used for all those Netflix shows, and that was just over-reliance on the drama. Whenever there was a lull, they just ratchet up the personal drama. All our protagonists are tortured in some way.
Well, this is why I think this happened, is because Jeff Loeb, I think, while we all love Jeff Loeb and his comics, he also was guilty in comics of, I'm writing Batman, let me include all the villains. somehow. Oh, I'm writing Superman. Let me include all the villains somehow. And let's throw. He wanted to just like sort of make like a soap opera kind of vibe going on a lot. Like he always had, at least the way I remember it, Catwoman and Batman, he's the one that made them like be seductive towards each other most of the time.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., him being in charge of all the Netflix shows, he liked more of that sort of drama aspect, and he did Heroes. And so I think he just I don't know. I think that was maybe why he didn't go so far. Maybe part of his downfall is because he just liked that drama aspect too much. I think he likes writing that.
I think he likes daddy issues.
Yeah.
He loves daddy issues, man. Look at any Netflix superhero show. It's all about daddy issues. And I think we talked about Jupiter's Legacy being a prime example, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, my dad doesn't pay enough attention to me, so I'm going to become a supervillain.
Look, Long Halloween, Dark Victory, Superman for All Seasons. I mean, Hush. There's so many Jeff Loeb comic stuff that is gold to me. I'm not dogging on Jeff Loeb, but I'm just talking about on the cinema side of things. I think that, even Kevin Feige has admitted that the Netflix deal, that was an experiment to see how this would go. Mm-hmm. They thought about trying to cross it over, but like I was telling you, Daredevil, while that show was great, it was just a little darker than Daredevil was ever really intended to be as a fictional character. Yeah, you can have some fan stuff and let's write Daredevil like this, but it's really like it was originally a comic book character created in a world where kids read this character, Was it darker? Of course. But Punisher was never that dark until Garth Ennis started writing it. And then even then, it was a Max title then. That it was their mature adult line, 18 and over on the cover and all that, even though they didn't abide by that.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, going back to your conversation, your comment about Jeff Loeb, writers have hits and misses, right? And a great example to bring it back to S.H.I.E.L.D., Dan Slott. Dan Slott, people love his She-Hulk run. They love Superior Spider-Man. They hate his Spider-Man run. He gave us asshole Peter Parker. He pretty much, Spider-Man is built on that tenet. The stories are built around with great power comes great responsibility. And the reason I say that is because Spider-Man is always having to sacrifice his personal life for his responsibility as a superhero. He's always unintentionally letting down the people that he loves because he prioritizes saving people as Spider-Man. In Dan Slott's run, Peter Parker lets people down and just doesn't care. He gave us asshole Peter Parker, and people do not like that run of his. So writers, sometimes, even when you're a good writer, there are just times where you just drop the ball, and sometimes you just lose your fastball too.
Sure.
Frank Miller, Jeff Loeb, Chris Claremont, some of their later works aren't as good as their former works.
I'd say especially with Claremont.
Yeah.
Like when Claremont and Byrne came back to X-Men, like in the early 2000s, dude, it couldn't have been more boring.
Yeah.
Like it was really like, I was like, I don't even want to read these issues because one, they're just full of words, way too much dialogue, Claremont.
Yeah.
And then it's like it's an X-Men book. I know that they were a little bit more of the intelligent book for Marvel, especially when they came out, but like, man, you're writing like Frank Miller wrote in The Dark Knight Returns. Because that's arguably some of the most, like the hardest comic book reading out there as far as reading words on the page. Like, Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah. And plus, when you get older, you realize that Claremont was a fetish freak.
Oh,
Claremont he loved leather and, S&M. You can just tell. Look at the Hellfire Club. Look at the Hellfire Club.
Sure.
Like when you're a kid, you're reading that, you're like, a Hellfire Club. What's that? And you get older, and you're like, is this dude into bondage?
There's an interview that somebody did where they're walking through his like office basement area or whatever, and he's got all this memorabilia, and it's cool little setup, and but he is kind of a smart ass and he is slightly pompous. It's like,
really?
Yeah, I'm Chris Claremont. It's like, yeah, you're Chris Claremont, but you're just Chris Claremont. You know, it's like not every comic book guy that's even.
You ain't Neil Gaiman, sucker.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, bringing it back to She-Hulk, over as far as the Easter eggs and things like that. I mean, these obviously were just clear little fun things. But then as far as them leading up to other things with Abomination and Hulk being in the jet or the spaceship, I mean, we're getting a Thunderbolts movie. They've already said that. Or is it a show? I can't ever tell when they release it when they actually announce it.
I think it's a movie, but it could be a show. I would think it would work better as a show.
So Abomination, part of the Thunderbolts?
Yeah, I think so. Abomination and
now Ross is dead in real life.
Yeah, but
William Hurt.
Julia Dreyfus's character. You can just mention Ross. You don't have to have
but he becomes Red Hulk.
You can change that.
They can, but who would it be is what my question is. Like, who would it be to where it would be? Because it would have been way more meaningful if we would have finally seen like, oh, whoa, General Ross, his dick behavior this whole time in MCU now turns out he's going to be Red Hulk.
Have we seen Major Glenn? Why is the name of the character escaping me? His right-hand man in the comics.
It's escaping me as well.
We saw a version of him in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But anyway, have we seen a version of him in the MCU?
I don't feel like we have. I feel like I would have remembered a guy that was like his henchman.
Yeah.
Because again, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is another one of those. It was like initially
Glenn Talbot.
Yes, General Talbot, which is freaking what's his name? He plays him in the Hulk movie with Eric Bana.
Okay, yeah.
What's that guy's name? He was in Sweet Home Alabama.
Well, there's been a couple that have played him. Is it
Josh Lucas?
Yeah, Josh Lucas. Yeah,
Josh Lucas played him in the Hulk movie, and he played a perfect Talbot. Now that'd be cool if he could do that. But again, they haven't introduced him to where. What I'm tired of the MCU doing is introducing characters so fast and then expecting you to just care about them like they're a part of the team now, and they're like your brother. What I loved about a lot of these characters, what was cool about War Machine is that you knew who he was. And then the second movie, it happens. It wasn't just like, and even then that was a little too rushed.
Mm-hmm.
I just like stuff fully unfolding to where it makes sense instead of like, for example, WandaVision, they gave, Pulsar or Photon, whatever you want to call her, but Rambeau.
Yeah.
That just like, oh, now she's jumping to the field. Now she can do it now. Now she's got powers.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same thing with the She-Hulk thing. It's like y'all doing just a little too fast for me.
I wonder if they will do Red Hulk. I mean, I have to think they will because the character's made some money in the comic books. But then again, will it play with mainstream audiences like we talked about earlier? Different type audiences.
I think so, man, because I think everybody loves that. I think it's especially with a character that's ongoing, it's inevitable to do some sort of a bizarro story. So like Fate and the Furious, you had that one where Dom was bad for a little while, but then you realize he's just trying to save his daughter.
Yeah.
So like, but they touched on that vibe. And so like Superman 3, you had that happening or Bizarro just in Superman in general. Yeah. So I do think people like the idea of an evil version or like, again, down the road. So I think a versus idea of sort of an equal match, Batman versus Superman, Freddy versus Jason, I think it would work. Predator versus Alien. So a Red Hulk versus a Green Hulk. I mean, I think that's visually, I want to see that. I just want to see that on the screen.
Well, you could do Red She-Hulk with Betty Ross.
You could, but again, are they going to get Liv Tyler back?
No, you just recast it.
Yeah, like they recast Ed Norton.
I love Liv Tyler, but she's not known as the strongest actor. Let's be real.
And I don't know if you remember in that movie though, she was like, it would be like super dramatic scenes and all this chaos would be going on. And she'd be like, like it was this super whisper.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Speak up.
Yeah. The best acting job she might have ever done would be the Aerosmith video that she did with her dad, which she didn't even realize it was her dad at the time.
Is that true?
Yeah. She was in that. She was in Crazy, right?
Oh, I knew that she was in the videos, but I didn't know. I don't think.
That's what I remember hearing back in the day. Now we didn't have the internet back in the day, so we just had to listen to rumors and believe them back in the day.
Oh yeah,
but I believe the rumor was that when she did that, she didn't know that she was Steven Tyler's daughter, and the mom finally told her after the video.
Interesting.
Yeah,
interesting. Because now they're like, oh, cool, right?
Yeah, they're super tight. Yeah,
yeah. That's a little bit. You learn something every day.
Yeah. Look that up, internet. Let me know if that rumor's true.
So overall, the CGI, it was in and out for me. Like sometimes it looked good and then sometimes it looked really bad. Yep. Sometimes I believed it. And then sometimes it was just like when they're talking in the bar, it just looked really bad to me. And then there was moments later on where she's by herself and she sort of like something happens and she just sort of has some emotional moments where you can see the actual reaction on her face change. And it's like, oh, that looks good. But then there's these other moments that would be 10 seconds later to where it's like, that looks like a cutscene on a PlayStation 4.
I wonder if the lighting has anything to do with it.
The lighting on her originally when they film her, or just the lighting in general? Hang on.
Well, I know when they do it, like if they do it in some sort of 3D engine, right? It does account for real life lighting. So because the scenes on the island that had a lot of good lighting, the CGI looked really good. So I wonder if whatever CGI they use, the technology accounts for lighting, and it's able to come across looking better
in daylight.
Yeah, and
well, you're right, because the CGI on that first episode, especially when they were doing all that, looked fine.
Yeah,
but so I wonder. They also, I noticed that the CGI looked the worst when it was super close up too.
Yeah, that's true. So it may just be the pixelization.
It just gets tougher and tougher. Look, and I'm not the one to claim that I know how to do that shit well at all. I don't. But we're talking about Disney with Mutu money here, so I put it out if it looks bad.
I think the thing is, I just don't know if there are a lot of companies that can do that. And so if all the people are going to one or two companies to do their CGI, I don't think you always have access to the best people
in there. Yeah, I know. Like that'd be an interesting thing to look up one day, is to see what are the, because obviously ILM is like one of the main ones.
Right.
But then I'd be interested to see what other companies are involved, because there's a lot of companies involved in gaming. That do, because these days some of the cutscenes for gaming, man, are starting to look dope.
Yeah.
So they're starting to, but this is also on next generation consoles like the PS5.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering if game studios are starting to lend themselves to movie studios. Is that partially why it looks like this? What I mean?
Well, we know special effects artists have complained that Disney is overworking them, and this isn't the only industry going through this dilemma. So any of you that watch,
but I think it's not just Disney though. I think Disney is the worst, but I think it's across the board. Special effects guys are just overworked.
Well, to kind of draw a parallel, anybody that watches animation, Japanese animation studios are really in trouble right now because they don't have enough staff to properly animate shows, and you'll watch some animation shows where some episodes look great. And then other episodes don't, and they have to kind of hide, animation, or have, scenes that, are just kind of basically cut scenes because they don't have enough animators. So it's kind of an industry-wide problem. Animation and special effects have two things in common. They're incredibly expensive to produce, right?
And incredibly expensive because they're incredibly time-consuming. They don't. Yeah. It's not something you can just, let me just run this filter over it, and there we go, we got it. No, you have to do every frame, every millimeter, it's just, there's no rushing in it. And if it's rushed, it looks bad immediately. And look, the other thing that I think Disney, don't get me wrong, I understand the purpose behind it. And I'm not seeing this in the She-Hulk show, because the She-Hulk show hasn't lent itself to be like this. But man, like Thor: Love and Thunder, man, dude, I can see just nothing but LED screen the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like you can see that LED screen that they're in front of. And it's like, it's one thing to use it. It's another thing to overuse it. And the Mandalorian, I felt like it was the same way. I felt like it was better in Obi-Wan. Some parts in Obi-Wan, it looked like they were on location. But then there's clear moments like when him and Vader are fighting at the end. It's like, that's so LED screen looking right there. Like, sorry. But then you look at Avengers Endgame, and that's battles going on at the end, and you see these massive ships crashing and everything. And like, I've rewatched those recently, man, and those look amazing. Now, they were probably working on this stuff for years. Yeah. I get it. And these were event movies that like everybody in the industry wanted to be a part of. You know what I mean? So it was a once in a lifetime type situation. But still, it's just like, once you set that bar as Marvel or as the MCU, and then you go and do these other things that look like Jar Jar Binks, it's like, come on. Just don't. That's why I'm saying they just need to scale it back with their quantity, man. Don't do so much stuff, because I don't think all of us are just like, we need more Marvel, please.
Yeah, I think they're in a dilemma because they want to strike while the iron's hot, and it's red hot, right? It's been red hot for 20 plus years, and so let's get our streaming platform out there. Let's put out content. Let's try to dominate that side of the market as well. But you're right. there's resources are limited, and it's very, very expensive, and money doesn't grow on trees, even if you're Marvel, even if you're Disney, right? So eventually you can start hemorrhaging money, and you have shareholders that you're beholden to. And if you're, at the end of the day, your books don't look good, your stock price suffers, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's this perpetual cycle where you just can't throw around money willy-nilly, right?
Right.
So,
and I feel like that they might kind of be doing that because of how many shows they invested in. Like, make all the movies you want. In fact, I'd rather you just make 5 movies a year, which they're almost up to that.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 4 movies a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 5. So anyways, I want them to scale it back a little bit. I'd rather quality over quantity. With that being said, I'm still enjoying this show, and I liked the humor of it. I didn't mind because when she breaks the fourth wall, it's just for a little bit, and then it never happens again. You know what I mean? So I'm fine with it. It's just not filling up the show that way. Curious to see what's going to happen with Blonsky as far as the Thunderbolts, if they're going to introduce any more people that are potential Thunderbolt people. Because I mean, it's definitely U.S. Agent, Blonsky, White Widow, if you want to call her that.
Mm-hmm.
Who else would you think is joining this team out of who we've already seen? I guess the Countess will be in charge.
Out of who we've already seen, that's interesting. I don't know. Because, well, we would need a dark version of Iron Man. Who would that be? I guess we'll get Rhodey. You know, Rhodey, he's not necessarily an evil character, but he is a different version of Iron Man, who I believe was in Thunderbolts for a while. So we'll get War Machine in there.
Now, are they gonna take the team that is secretly like trying to be a Hydra thing, or is it going to be a Suicide Squad?
I think it's going to be Suicide Squad. I think the Hydra thing's done.
So what I'm saying is, it's going to be misfits still trying to get good mission. So you're going to be rooting for these guys in the movie, is what you're saying.
Now you may still have a big bad in charge that they've got to take down, but I think it's going to be a misfit type movie.
Okay, I mean, that'd be cool.
I mean, Elena Belovich is not. I still haven't watched Hawkeye, by the way. I need to watch that. But Elena Belovich, she's not like a bad character, right? The White Widow.
No, she's not. Yeah. That's why. But she also is misguided. You know, she thinks.
So is U.S. Agent, but they're not your true heavies. They're not your true bad guys, right?
Right.
So,
You're right.
I think Misfits is the way it's going to go for sure.
And that's another thing to touch on before we end this is that John Walker didn't get his arc. They didn't give him the proper arc.
No,
sorry, it was too fast. It was just it should have been a whole movie based on him coming in, or even a whole movie to where we kind of see him and get introduced to this character of John Walker, and then to all of a sudden when it happens and he decides, like, it would have been cool if we knew who John Walker was in these movies before Endgame.
Yeah, if he'd gotten a series. Listen, we
just would have known who the character of John Walker was without being the U.S. agent. Just have known who he was, so when he turns into it, it matters.
And listen, if you're Marvel and you're looking at these shows, I think you're starting to realize that you need street level characters to work for these shows because they're less expensive to produce, and you can probably just get better quality shows and save your money for, like we said, the big event.
And everything in camera is going to be better.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll be interested to see if they take that direction. They don't have a ton of just street level characters outside Daredevil and Moon Knight. Moon Knight, you made it all about gods. So you've already added special effects where you didn't need to add special effects, frankly. So maybe if they do season 2 of Moon Knight, they rebrand the character a little bit and make it sort of that street level character.
Or maybe he gets involved in a team up film where he's sort of like Thor, where he comes to our level for a little while.
Yeah.
Does some stuff. You know what I mean? That's not come to our level, but, you know, mentally chooses to be in our level for a little bit instead of in this supernatural, spiritual realms.
And Punisher, I know they're making Blade a movie. I wish they had made that a TV show because that's another character. That's a street level character. Vampires don't need a ton of special effects. You can do a lot of practical effects with vampires and still look good.
Look at Blade. Look at the first movie.
Yep, exactly. So, although that scene at the end, that special effects scene at the end, if you rewatch that, looks terrible now.
Oh, like when Deacon's like flipping
turns into blood
upside down. Oh, yeah, I know that. But everything leading up to the third act is solid now. But then you have Blade 2 by Guillermo del Toro, which is my favorite
Fantastic, right?
And yeah, that movie's just awesome. Like, just all across the board, which is why, like, I feel like people give Blade 3 such a bad rap. It's like Blade 3 isn't bad, it's just nothing compared to the second one. Like, they didn't Blade 3 is the worst one out of all three of those.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not bad. It's just not 1 and 2. And I don't know. It's got a too much of a pop culture we're back vibe to it, but I still enjoy Blade 3.
Well, hopefully he gets to do another Marvel movie soon. I would love to see him do one.
Who, Wesley?
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo. No, yeah, that would be. I mean, what do you think he would do? What do you think he would want to do that hasn't been done? Like,
that's a good question.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what's a Marvel thing? Because obviously, like something like Ant-Man, you could see him all over that.
Yeah,
but a Marvel thing,
it would have to do something with Blade. You know, it would have, or something along those lines, because Marvel did in that when Blade became popular, they had that whole, you know, Dracula run of comics where Dracula was a big bad, and you had Blade and a bunch of other,
which was what Blade 3 was.
Yeah, with Drake, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I bet he could. What if he did like a third Doctor Strange movie? That'd be cool.
Yeah, or there's a superhero. Well, he could do Ghost Rider.
Oh, dude.
Yeah,
that would be.
Yeah,
that would be talk about. They would definitely be like, tone it down, Guillermo. Tone it down with the evil and darkness. It's not that evil, you know.
Yeah, but I would love to see him do it though.
But I want to do it.
Yeah.
No, Guillermo's a creative guy. I still am ashamed to say I haven't watched Nightmare Alley, and it's not because I didn't want to. I just haven't had the chance.
I haven't
either. Seen it?
No, I haven't.
It's on Hulu.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Did you have something else you wanted to say?
No. Well, we can go and wrap it up.
Man, yeah. So overall, I'm liking this show as far as the lightheartedness of it, but I also had low expectations when it first came out. So there's something about it that's like charming to me. There's something about it that's working. I don't know what it is specifically, because it's not, you know, if you would have asked me like 10 years ago, Hawkeye Falcon Winter Soldier would be the one that I would probably be like, yeah, that's the one, because it's got all this action in it. But WandaVision and She-Hulk and Miss Marvel so far have been the ones that I feel like in a couple years, they're still going to kind of hold up and not be so trendy. Hawkeye was maybe right behind those, but man, Falcon Winter Soldier just didn't work for me.
I love Loki because I could listen to Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston go back and forth all day.
I loved Loki. It was just the middle 2 episodes kind of bored me.
Really, those were some of my favorite episodes with his female counterpart.
Yeah, when they're like just them talking.
I like the world hopping aspect of that.
I did too. I thought it was cool. I did not dislike it. I don't know. It was really good. It was really good, but I just feel like that I'm not just blown away by any of this stuff. WandaVision was the only one that truly blew me away.
Yeah, and once again, WandaVision got hampered by COVID. I would love to see them end that the way that they wanted to end it, you know?
Oh, I would have loved it too. Yeah, just something super, like a whole episode just devoted to the fight.
Yeah.
Now, one more thing, and then we'll wrap this up at an hour. What has happened to, and when are we going to see White Vision?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I thought he would show up in Doctor Strange. You know, that would
maybe help or do something.
Yeah, but he didn't.
The Secret War, then maybe.
Maybe. I wonder how much longer those actors are under contract for. You know, are we going to see? You know, Wanda back? Are we going to see Vision back? I don't know.
I could see them coming back in Secret War, but not until then.
Yeah, and Secret War. How many years away is that? 2 years away?
24 and 25 is 24 is Kang Dynasty, and 25 is Secret War.
3 years away. Yeah, a lot can happen in 3 years, man.
So, yeah, a lot can happen. Yeah, there's so much. I mean, I hate to be morbid, but shit, people can die.
Yeah.
But I could see Bettany and Olsen being like, all right, cool. We did all these, and then the agreement is that we have one more.
Yeah.
And those are at the end. And maybe they'll treat that one more like 2, like they did Infinity War and Endgame, because they were filming those consecutively. They wasn't like, all right, we're done. Now let's go film the other one. They were just doing it.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see Wanda get a nice send off. Yeah.
It'd be cool to see her have a even though it was a sacrificial send off, and she like at the very last moment she snapped back into it at Doctor Strange. It would be cool to see her like in a fight for good and then get sent off the right way. Or it'd be cool to see her and her and Vision be able to like float away together on some sort of astral plane to where they can exist in a happy existence. You know, you can do whatever you want with Wanda and her magic.
Yeah, I'm excited. Listen, if they base it off the Jonathan Hickman run of Secret Wars, which is what I think they're going to do, which I strongly recommend you to go read that. It has the promising to be pretty epic because that Secret War story is one of the rare comic book events that actually ends up being a good story. Normally, I hate event comic books because they're crappy stories and
it's just a reason to get people to get them.
Yeah,
all
it's just a big sales bonanza. It's all just trying to sell comics, and it's not good storytelling. But Secret Wars is one where it was a good story.
So okay, and I say I say one more and then that's it. But this is the last question because I'm just curious your thoughts.
Yeah.
So with Spider-Man, and because what I thought was going to happen is that after No Way Home, Spider-Man was going to have like a few Sony films and then like non-MCU films, and then jump back in when it was time to do something with Secret War. But that's not the case.
Yeah,
MCU and Sony are making Spider-Man 4 as we speak, as far as in pre-production, and Tom has already signed a multi-whatever contract. So we got to have the black suit for Secret War.
Yeah, will they do it though? Because
but they've already been showing that Tom Hardy's Venom is like that symbiote was left over.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna be honest. I hated both the Venom movies. I couldn't even finish the second one.
The first one was fun. The second one's terrible.
Yeah, I didn't like either. Now I saw the first one in movie theaters, and it was so dark. I could never figure out what was going on action wise. And I really I liked the horror aspect. Like I thought the first one really shines when it had the horror aspect going for it. But then they try to turn it comedic sometimes, and it just
the second one was way too comedic with Venom at a nightclub and stuff. That was too much.
Yeah, figure out the tone you want in these movies, guys. I think that's what Marvel does that the other studios do not do. They cannot figure out what tone to take. They either make it too dark or they're inconsistent with the tone in the movies, and it just doesn't ever work. There's no balance to it. There's no singular voice to these movies.
Yeah, you're right. Especially, I mean, while they got a lot wrong with the first Venom, first thing is not including Spider-Man in it, but most of all, it didn't cover its bases quite like it should even with Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock. He wasn't playing Eddie Brock as dark as I would have liked to have seen it. He was a little too nice, and I feel like the second one just had no redeeming qualities. The first one still had some fun moments, and you're seeing Venom at least look the way you've always wanted to see him look on screen. But even then, it's like, but you're not getting the character right.
Yeah, and so that's what brings me to the point about Spider-Man is Spider-Man is very much under the Tom Holland is very much a lighter-hearted type of property. Now they definitely have heavy moments, like when Aunt May passes away. That's and
now he's in a heavy spot. Mm-hmm. Now he's in an unhappy spot for sure because he has no one. So I'm interested to see these next 3 films. That Spider-Man.
Yeah, but this is this classic Spider-Man that we grew up with, right? That's what they're giving us.
That's what
a lot of it. Yeah. A lot of the detractors of Tom Holland run, you don't know how much I hear from my comic book friends. It's just basically Iron Boy. I didn't sign up to watch Iron Boy, You're getting that Spider-Man now.
And yeah, there was a lot of that with the way we got Spider-Man introduced to the MCU, but that only reason that is that way is because of legal stuff. And when they were finally able to get him into the game and they had to write him into it somehow. And the best way to do that was writing this connection with Tony.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean? That's why we had it that way. But they also, now that they're reverting it back clearly with that costume he has at the very end. And I'm looking forward to this painful Spider-Man that lives in the apartment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like it. And listen, this is it's more attuned to a true coming of age tale. He had his father figure who supported him. And now that support is gone and he's got to find his way in his world, right? On his own. So I think it works better as a true maturation of a character that he did have that support early on. And now he's got to go become his own superhero. And I think in response to your answer, the black suit, we're definitely going to get that Spider-Man first. If we do get the black suit in the next movie, I wouldn't be surprised as a cliffhanger.
I'd rather it as a cliffhanger rather than they just shoot it into a movie. And then when I have the black suit, I want a whole movie to be about that and not have Venom in it. And then I want Venom later coming a part of that story with Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Like the problem with Spider-Man 3 is that it would have been fine with just Sandman and Green Goblin. But then if you needed to have the black suit, then just have him struggling with the black suit. Like it would have been great to tail in Spider-Man 3 and have like a cliffhanger of Topher Grace coming at the screen as Venom underneath the bell tower, and then it goes black, and then the movie's over. Like that would have been beautiful, but instead we have the birth and death of Venom in 25 minutes.
Yeah, and that's a movie I was referencing that I couldn't think of when I was trying to talk about why I didn't have faith in Avengers, right? Too much. A couple quick questions, and I know we keep saying this is going to be
it's all right. It's all right.
Aaron Taylor Johnston's Kraven, is that going to be done by Marvel or done by Sony?
That's Sony.
Okay.
Any movie that doesn't have Spider-Man directly relating to any other characters like Doctor Strange or anybody we've seen that are in MCU movies without Spider-Man, for example, Happy Hogan, all that stuff. Any of those movies like Morbius, all that are all Sony. So if it's a Spider-Man character and it's connected to Spider-Man and it's a solo movie, it's Sony.
Because listen,
the only thing MCU's doing with Spider-Man is making Spider-Man movies with those characters when Sony makes it with MCU. But as far as like Morbius and all that, MCU has nothing to do with it. Venom, nothing to do with it.
Okay. I was hoping maybe he would fall under that weird umbrella and Marvel would get to do it. Well, maybe Sony can finally do a good movie, because Aaron Taylor Johnston's performance in Bullet Train had me kind of excited to see him as Kraven.
I've always liked him. I thought he was great in both Kick-Ass movies. I liked him in Avengers Age of Ultron. I liked him as Quicksilver. Just wasn't in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was one of the hyped cameos that I was very disappointed in, because like you said, just not a lot of screen time, right? I can't believe they killed off that character as fast as they did.
Yeah, you didn't see that? That's just because of the X-Men thing and Fox and all that, and Bryan Singer was using Quicksilver, which I do like Evan Peters' Quicksilver as well. I think that's
like those scenes. I don't know if like I really like. I'm kind of indifferent towards the character, you know.
I like him because he's doing the whole Magneto was my pops thing and all that. And now I don't think Apocalypse was a good movie. No. I do think Days of Future Past is great, but Apocalypse sucks.
They really
except for the Wolverine scene and the Quicksilver scene.
And watching all those movies now after all that news about Bryan Singer dropped just gives you a weird feeling, you know.
It does.
It's hard to like those movies now. It's hard to like those movies.
It's strange for sure, but yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, you want to do this again next Thursday about She-Hulk episode 3?
Let's do it.
Yeah, and then maybe we'll try to schedule something in between then as well, but we'll definitely keep this on the books to get kind of things rolling again. But yeah, just starting this off, and you guys be prepared to see Anshul more on the channel and to go to check out his channel.
Check out Who's the Master, right?
Who's the Master?
That's right. Anybody know where that's from? You know, it's that Shogun of Harlem. That's what we represent over on that side. So come check us out. It'll be a lot of fun. And Bobo, we'll have you on our channel sometimes when we get it fully up and rolling.
Anytime, dude. Anytime. I'd love to do it, dude. So thanks for joining me, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, guys. Peace.
All right. Peace. Guys, y'all have a good one today. And I'm going to go see The Invitation tonight, and I'll get a review out for that tomorrow. So in the meantime, remember, life gives you lemons. Make some hot, fresh popcorns. Oh, yeah.